Mark Twain once said, "If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first." We're going to be talking about procrastination, as well as looking at an ominous tension cue appropriately titled Boiling Point on my Week 22 vlog check-in. What is happening, YouTube? This is Dave Croft. First, before we say anything else, I want to say, how are you doing? I hope that you had a fantastic weekend as we come into week 23 of 2020, and I hope that you've been writing a lot. I hope that things have been going well for you. Have you gotten any placements? Have you had any pitches land? Have you made any air? Or are you just being more productive? I hope so. As we are approaching, it's week 23 here, we are approaching the halfway point of the year. And so we're starting week 23. We just wrapped up week 22. So I hope you are doing well. Also, before we get into things, if you haven't yet, please consider liking and subscribing the video. That really does help composers just like you find the channel and find other videos. Also want to give a shout out to my Patreon patrons who, by giving their real life actual money, help keep this channel afloat. We have more information about the Patreon at the end of the video, including some incentives for our patrons, including music production live streams. If you want to skip over the vlog portion of today, you can check out the timestamp in the description below. But I'm going to be talking about procrastination, and I'm just again where I am at. If this is your first time watching one of these, just to let you know, what I'm doing here is every week I talk about a cue that I wrote in the week before, or a cue that I put the final touches on, or final mix or master, or delivered in the week before, and talk about things that are going on professionally in my life, in the industry, or whatever. And today is a very, very personal topic because for the first time in a shameful number of years, I actually went to the dentist. I don't think I talked about this before, but I actually went to the dentist. And I'm very fearful of dentists. I had a lot of teeth issues as a kid and dental surgery as a kid, and I just don't at all like dentists. Nothing personal if you are a dental hygienist or a dentist or an orthodontist or whatever. It's absolutely nothing personal. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that that my deep-seated fear of dentists came from some trauma as a kid, just having to have dental surgery. But in the process of working through that, and a wisdom tooth coming in at the ripe old age of 47, that kind of forced my hand. And I finally pulled the trigger, got some anti-anxiety meds on board, and went to the dentist again for the first time in a shameful number of years. And it really got me thinking about procrastination. On top of all this, wrapping up grades and realizing that this big work pile was really, really ganging up on me from having taken a vacation earlier in the month, which, by the way, is why we didn't have an actual week 19 video. I went on vacation for a week, and so the grades really, really piled up. And so I was putting all of these things in front of it. And the procrastination really, really got to me. Now, whether it was deserved procrastination, like with a dentist, like having some real life trauma that keeps you, blocks you from going. With a dentist, it was keeping me kind of in my child mind, where I wasn't really thinking like an adult, like, Dave, you got to go to the dentist. This isn't going away. Unless you want your teeth to fall out, you've got to take care of your teeth. That's the adult mind rationalizing. Or whether it's, projects getting put in front of other projects, or whether it's just something you just don't want to do, either professionally or whatever. Like you love composing, but maybe you hate mixing, or maybe you love mixing and mastering, but you hate editing MIDI, or you hate working on cue sheets, or you hate working on your cut downs and your stems and all of that stuff. And I'm here to tell you that while procrastination might feel good in the short term, feeling like, hey, I can kind of kick that can down the road, it rarely ends well. In the case of my teeth, I'm just being honest with you guys. Like I had 4 cavities. I need all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled out. And I had to have a deep clean, which includes a procedure called root planing, which is terrifying. And I had my final appointment for that, because I had to do my deep cleaning in 2 sessions, like one side and the other side, and I had to do the 2 sessions. I had my final session this morning, and if I had taken care of all of my business as I was going on, I doubt I would have had to have gone through that. It's certainly not in one setting. Getting 4 cavities done at once, getting all 4 wisdom teeth done at once is no picnic. Or, having kicked the can for grading and making sure that you're taking care of your students and or answering emails or whatever, and then you realize the deadline is approaching. You've got to nail your deadline, and so you're up at this morning. My alarm clock went off at 4 o'clock, my miracle morning and all that stuff. And I had to forego my exercise routine because I had to hit these deadlines. Likewise, in the fall, going through some stuff, my father-in-law passed. And so just walking through that, and even as I was working through grief and everything that goes along with that, I found myself kind of kicking the can of all of the cues I need to write that weren't due until 7 months later. But it was really easy, too easy, to kind of fall back to, well, it's either several months away, or I'm still working through the grieving process, and being honest with myself, right? I mean, grieving is grief, and all of my clients totally understood and all of that. But maybe there was a part of me that kind of, I don't want to say used it as an excuse, but it was a little too easy to kind of go back there. And so what ended up happening? Well, like I said, with the teeth, 4 cavities, 4 wisdom teeth at one time, and root planing, and with the deliverables for the large project, when that bill finally came due, I was burning the candles on both ends. And that coincided right before leaving for vacation and cranking out like 12 and 15 cues a week, because I had allowed myself to get backed up. With the grading, waking up at 4 o'clock, foregoing the things you really need to do for yourself so that you can make sure that you have enough time. And that's where I found myself, because where I could, I didn't press forward into these things. Whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's having gone on vacation, or whether it's coming out of a really tough life thing. And so I'm here to encourage you to, when possible, eat that frog first thing in the morning. Do the thing that you want to do least first. My wife Shannon talks about it. Like if you have to fill a jar with rocks, and all of those rocks are different sizes, then you have to put the big rocks in first and allow the little rocks to form around them. If you try to put all of your little rocks in first, then the big rock can't fit anymore. So put your big rocks in first. Eat your frog first thing in the morning. And this is something that I'm really giving this talk today as a means to motivate myself. I'm not here necessarily because I am not great at this at all. At all. So whether it's answering emails, whether it's doing laundry with the life stuff, whether it's stepping away because you need to step away, or the things that maybe aren't the most fun part of the job, do first. Otherwise, it's going to feel like this sword of Damocles slowly swinging towards your neck, and you can't really be free of it. And that's the thing. Because when you have obligations, when you have things in your life that you need to take care of, then they create open loops in your subconscious that just loop, come around and around and around. And they take up energy. They take up space in your consciousness, whether you know it or not. They take up mental energy. This low-grade hum of, I need to take care of this. And if you don't do it, then you do the thing that maybe is more fun, more pleasurable. Yes, you're getting that dopamine hit of pleasure from writing or the thing you really, really want to do. But it is mitigated by the open loop of the things you should be doing, you have to be doing, the less fun things. But what if, just imagine a world where you take care of the frog, you take care of the open loop that is the least fun part of your day. What if you do that first? Then you do the fun things. Then you do the things that you really, really enjoy. What ends up happening is not only will you take care of the frog, the big boulder, that's done, so you'll feel the weight of that closed loop, but you'll also get that dopamine hit, that feeling of satisfaction, of accomplishment from having done it. Then, when you go to do the things you really want to do, the things that are really rewarding, really fun, the dopamine hit, the rush, the energy, the feel-good vibes, those are even more pronounced. At least that's been my experience. So if you eat the frog, you take care of the thing you want to do the least. Eat it, do it first. You get the rush of having that done, the weight of it lifted. The rest of your day feels free because you've taken care of the obligations you should be taking care of. I don't want to use that term should. I use that lightly. I don't want to should on everybody, but take care of your frogs first. And then the rest of your day, it's like it's all downhill. It's all smooth sailing if you eat your frogs first. And if you have 2 frogs, then eat the bigger one first. And this is a lesson that I am constantly learning. I am constantly terrible at, but I'm confessing to you right now that I want to be better at it. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the track for this week. Oh, actually, how about you? Do you guys have frogs that you have to take care of? What kind of frogs are in your life? Let me know in the comments below. I tried to name a few that were really personal to me, and I'd love to hear what kind of frogs trip you up. Is it the mixing? Is it the mastering? Is it cue sheets? Is it filling out metadata spreadsheets? That's another huge frog of mine, is filling out metadata, and it's the least fun part of the gig. But I'd love to hear about some of your frogs. So let's take a look at Boiling Point. It is an ominous tension cue. I will be sending this off to the publisher, and let's take a quick look. right, so that is boiling point. It is an ominous tension cue, and that means that it has drone-based harmony. So it's not a progression. So every 4 bars, we have a 5 chord going to a 1 chord or anything like that. It's essentially revolving around one tonal center throughout the entirety of the cue, which begs the question, how do you create phrasing when there's no real harmony change to speak of? Well, that's when we get into some of the sound design elements, namely these either the big bass drum hits, or I love these cymbal scrapes. And I try at the phrase points every 4 bars to indicate that this is a phrase section, and this gives the editors something to use. They can edit in and out as needed. And it's one of the cool challenges that I like of writing ominous tension cues. But even without the cymbal, I'm still doing my phrasing. We have, a little 2-beat intro, but still every 4 bars, I'm looking to add intensity, either by adding layers of sound or by adding density to the sounds that are already there. All right. Introducing a super slow moving melody, which is also another takeaway of ominous tension cues, really slow moving melodies. So I'm not really introducing any new sounds, but I'm layering on this low drone sounds there. I'm increasing the rhythmic complexity of my gran casa or my concert bass drum. Now we add a new sound. And so that's how the form is happening. It kind of reaches critical mass, not really like super critical mass, but it gets there, pushes, and right around the minute mark, I'm going to pull the energy back. My bell goes to a faster melody, pulling the energy, thin out some of the density. This would be considered the breakdown. Now push it forward just a little bit. Now a big push as we start approaching critical mass. Even more density, critical mass. Notice the harmony hasn't changed. Yeah, there are notes that are kind of floating in and out of the texture, but the chord itself hasn't changed. Big push right here to the button. So final 1 chord to really take us home. So let's look at some of the sounds. So just starting from the top, my melodic. It's an omnisphere bell patch. Lots of omnisphere onto here. My secondary, my rhythmic non-melodic. And these are patches from the unfinished. This soft bell. As that, pull that up. It's a green cross from the Colossus collection. The hard bell is from the Gai Kaiju collection. This hurdy-gurdy actually isn't a hurdy. It sounds hurdy-gurdy-esque. Let me unfreeze it here. And it sounds hurdy-gurdy-esque, but this is from their Siberia collection. And I just love. I need to get him on the channel, ultimately. Love to get him on the channel. It just sounded like a hurdy-gurdy. It's a ethnic bowed instrument. Now let's freeze that. My low pulse. I freeze these to save up resources, just because some of these patches, when you get them really dense and we've got modulations happening, we've got pitch bends, it can just get a little sketchy. Let's move on. And this is a patch called Dead Heat from the Horizon 2 collection, with some modulation, which is opening up the filter. My low drone here, I'll go kind of to the middle. Just low, spooky, one of his texture patches that responds really, really well to mod wheel. And that's what I really like about his programming. Nearly every patch has a mod wheel component that will flavor the patch. So this is called Resurrection. If I work the mod wheel, then if I work the mod wheel and the pitch, yeah, you can get some really, really, really cool effects. All right, then once we get out of those sounds, then we get into some damage 2. So the Doles and the Grand Casa. I believe the Grand Casa is going to be damage 2. Grand Casa, of course, being a concert bass drum, usually larger, 50, 60, 70 inch. The Dole, these guys come in at the end. Kind of toms, but the heads don't sound plasticky. They sound like real like skins. And so then we have the Grand Casa. So you can see it's going from the 70 to the 40, the 70. So it's just really, really ping-ponging around the soundstage. Then, of course, my cymbal effects. There are 2 passes of these, which is the bowed, and this, that is a China cymbal, and these are both China cymbals, and I am using a friction mallet on the cymbal, and that gives it that really haunting, and almost sounds like a voice. It's just some really creepy, ethereal roar. And so I blended those together, and I'm using the cymbal effects, the bowed cymbal, at the phrase points. And so at the halfway point, especially at 65 beats per minute, at the halfway point, I'm putting a thinner, so a big one on the downbeat of the phrase, and at the 2-bar mark, or at the start of the 3-bar mark, put a smaller one. But at the section changes, when the phrase goes in, not the phrase, but when I go from the build up into the breakdown, coming out of the breakdown, and then at the button, that's when I'm bringing in. That's what that friction mallet guy is all about. That's what that does. Now, as far as mixing these can be a real challenge, especially once you bring a Grand Casa to the party. It is so low and rumbly. Let me get ahead here. And so you have to be really, really careful. So I've essentially given the low end to my Grand Casa. And then some of these other sounds, the EQs. Let me unfreeze those so you can kind of see. So I got everything else kind of out of the way for these. For that Grand Casa, the Grand Casa really gets to keep the low end. Not a ton. I mean, you can see not a ton of processing. Anytime I'm dealing with libraries. Synth libraries, especially Omnisphere, and these types of sounds that are going to have a ton of reverb and release tail already baked into the patch, I tend not to throw even more reverb on it. Unless I was going for a specific effect, or if it was a library that was an acoustic type of a sound. And I know Omnisphere has some acoustic sampled instruments in there, kalimba and coffee cans and stuff. But in general, especially with the unfinished stuff, he drenches that in reverb anyway, and so it's just kind of overkill. And it's all synthy and artificial to begin with, so I don't have to try to fool the listener into believing that it's all being concocted or all being composed rather on the same soundstage. I'm not having to convince a listener that a virtual performance is happening in real time by acoustic players. So that is Boiling Point. I hope that was really helpful for you to check out, and I'd love to know your thoughts. If you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And again, if you haven't, please like, subscribe, that notification bell. I promise you it absolutely helps other composers just like you find the channel. We are quickly approaching 900 subscribers. Wow. And shooting for the goal of 1,000 subscribers. And I really hope that I can look back at this video a year from now and go, wow, remember when we only had 800 and something subscribers? Also want to thank my Patreon patrons who absolutely make this channel possible. Patron sponsorship is just $1 to join, and you get access to my weekly live streams. There's a live stream happening tonight. We're doing a mix down of last week's cue, and there's another live stream going on tomorrow where I will be writing an uplifting hip hop cue. So thank you guys very much. So that's going to do it for me. I hope that you guys have a fantastic week 23, and I will see you next time. Until then, peace.